Hi, everybody. My name is JP, and I want to talk to you today about this challenge. We all know that it's really important and increasingly important that we have a good understanding of our customers if we want to provide them with a better and more personalized experience. Now, there's a lot of data around, but sometimes this data is fragmented, and it's not always easy to turn it into impactful insight. So why are we as Adyen talking to you about that? Well, Adyen is unique in the sense that it has a single platform. So every payment, whether it's done online, through a mobile app, in store, in different countries, it all runs through the same platform. And for that reason, we can help you connect the different transactions that your customers are making into a single view of the customer for insight. We can help you create seamless journeys across different channels. And we can also help you engage your customers, for example, by supporting your loyalty program. And those are the three things I want to talk about today. But let's start with the first things first, because sometimes people talk about data, and sometimes it's not that clear what is the relevance, what is the so what. So I want to share with a few examples of some work we do with our merchants to give you an idea of how data can have a true impact on decision making. Now, we often start with the Pareto principle. So in this case, you see that 20% of customers generate 60 or more % of sales and profit. And this is not uncommon. And once you see something like this, it starts raising questions like, who are these people? What do they buy? How can I get more of them? How can I retain them? It's these kind of insights that lead many companies to launch loyalty programs. Now, a loyalty program is often quite a significant investment, and it can be a real challenge to measure the impact. Normally, when you do a marketing campaign, the way you measure impact is that you leave some people out of your campaign and you compare their behavior with the behavior of the people who received, for example, your mailing. With a loyalty program, all your data is coming from your loyalty program. So what do you compare it against? Well, more and more of our merchants are using payments data as the control cell. So they can look at what were the people who are in the program doing before they joined the loyalty program, and what are they doing compared to people who are not in the loyalty program. What we can also look at is the flow of customers across, for example, stores. And we have retailers that open up many new stores. And when you open a store, then not every customer is likely to be incremental, completely new. Some people used to go to other nearby stores. And understanding that dynamic is really important for choosing your locations. Similarly, when you need to close stores, which under the current circumstances is maybe even as relevant. What happens when you close a store? Are people going to your other stores? Are they going online? Or have you lost them? And this whole interplay between your stores and your online channel is something that not many companies really understand. What is the value of an omni-channel shopper? How much is their spend different from those people who come only in your stores or only online? What we see often is that omni-channel customers are worth more. They're more invested in your brand, and they really benefit from the convenience that you can give them. Now, once you realize that, maybe you want to communicate your e-commerce site in your stores, or maybe you want to create new omni-channel journeys. And the final example I want to give is around tourists, foreign shoppers. Of course, at the moment, not so much, but hopefully soon, again, many merchants have very important business with tourists, with people from other countries. This is an example of a merchant in London, where you can see the average transaction value on the x-axis and the total spend, number of transactions, for the different nationalities. And you can see that Chinese and US customers in total spend more in these London stores than UK customers, who are on the top left. UK customers spend a lot less per average transaction, but they come a lot more often. But they're fundamentally different kind of customers. It's important to understand that. If you look on the right, you see that people from Hong Kong have the highest average transaction value, more than twice the average transaction value in the purple dot of people from Japan. So understanding this is really useful, for example, when you choose how you want to market. Which airlines do you want to be in the in-flight magazine? What payment methods do you want to enable people to pay in their own payments methods that they're used to? What kind of language skills do you want to have? So just some examples of how payments data can be used. Now, how is it used? There's two ways of benefiting from this information. On the left, you can use it in your own environment. So we can give you the data that you can combine with the other data you hold in your own environment. I'll talk about that a little bit later. On the right, we also provide insights based upon the information that we hold. We do that in the way I just showed you, some of the analysis examples, but we increasingly do that with dashboards. We've just introduced our first dashboard, which is an omni-channel dashboard. It shows you how many new customers you have versus customers who've been before, returning customers. It shows you the e-commerce customers are the dark line, and the light blue line is the people who come to your stores. Now, normally this is quite a stable picture, but in this year with the pandemic, there's so much happening in this slide. You see the store customers almost disappear and then pick up again when the stores open. You see the e-commerce customers shooting up and stabilizing at a level that is higher than it was before for this particular merchant. You can look at the average transaction value for these different segments, etc. But as I said, the impact of our data is even bigger when you host it in your own environment, because you know what customers buy, you've got other data sets that you can combine it with. So what we can give you is, for every payment, an alias, a unique token that represents the card number, but it's safe to hold in your own environment. It can't be used for payment. And with that card alias, you can then link every transaction to all the prior transactions done by the same card. In other words, done by the same customer. So you can create a single customer view. We can also add in more information, like the shopper origin, so the country where the card was issued. We can give you the type of card. Was it a prepaid debit card? Was it a credit card? Was it a regular debit card? We can give you the payment account reference, which is a way of connecting a device token for a wallet with the underlying payment card. So the second thing I wanted to talk about is unified shopper journeys. Now, there are too many journeys to mention, but I'll give a few examples just to give you an idea. We do a lot of work with mobile terminals with merchants. And when some of the member of staff in the store has a good conversation with the customer knows what they want to buy. Why would you send them to a queue in front of a fixed till point if you can take payment right there and then on the terminal? Next year, we're launching our Android range of terminals, which means that one device can have both the mobile cash register and the payment functionality on a single device. We do a lot of work with endless aisles. And an endless aisle is the ability for your customers to buy from your whole e-commerce assortment when they're in store. Maybe a product is never in store or out of stock. You can still sell them what they want, but maybe you want to take the payment on a terminal. And we have very easy integrations for that. We also see a lot of journeys that mix channels. Like, for example, you buy something online and then are able to return it in store. And this is a really popular journey for many consumers. Now, how do you do the refund? Well, with our referenced refunds, the customer doesn't even have to bring their payment card. The unique transaction code is enough to make the refund. You always know that the money goes back to the right customer, and you can reconcile the purchase and the return in your systems in a very easy way. Now, 2020, with the pandemic, has seen a true explosion of omnichannel journeys. A lot of companies have had to be really nimble in adjusting to this new temporary reality. And our payment links and our payment link product, Pay by Link, has become a real feature in many of these journeys. Now, what is a payment link? A payment link is a link to a payment page where the customer can fill in their payment details and make the payment on their own phone or on their own computer. So they are used whenever there's an opportunity or a need for a customer to make a payment whilst they're not, for example, on an e-commerce platform or not standing in front of you in a store. So use cases are customer service interactions, maybe the call center staff sitting at home. We see a lot of merchants enabling their customers to have contact with them through chat or through Zoom. And all those circumstances are great opportunities to then take a quick payment through a payment link. And we make this really easy. So a consumer can either log on to our portal, our customer area, and create the payment link and email it to the customer. You can also automate it by integrating it with our APIs. We can also show a payment link as a QR code on the payment terminal. So the customer scans it, does the payment, and then the terminal is notified that the transaction has been approved, which is a way of accepting contactless payments above the contactless limit, but also a good way of accepting e-commerce payment methods, like, for example, PayPal, in your stores. And we're just about to introduce a new way of generating payment links. So that's even easier. And it's through an app. It's an app that can sit on any iOS device that your staff has access to, and Android will follow. And all they need to do is fill in the amount that the customer has to pay and fill in the merchant reference, the unique code that you use to link the payment with the transaction in your own system for reconciliation purposes. Now they have the option of also putting in the product description and the name of the customer. We generate the payment link, and if the customer is standing in front of you, they can scan the QR code and make the payment. But if they're not, then you can send the payment link, for example, through WhatsApp to the customer. And as you can see here, this could be the end and conversion point of a dialogue between the customer and your member of staff. So we've talked about insight, we've talked about payment journeys. The third thing I want to mention is what we call engagement. If insights is understanding what groups of customers do and drawing conclusions from that and making decisions, engagement really is about things you can do with your customers in a one-to-one capacity. Now, some of this is facilitated by the way Adyen works with payment terminals, and the way our platform and your cash register talks to the terminal is through Terminal API. Now, what does that mean? That means that the terminals can be used, for example, for all kinds of interactions outside of the payment. Here's an example of a merchant that asks for some customer satisfaction scores after the payment transaction. Just a very quick, how satisfied are you? Really cost-efficient way of getting that feedback. And they can use that information to track customer satisfaction between stores, time of day. They can link it in their own system to what products were purchased, even how do particular members of staff perform. Another example here from Joe and the Juice is sign up for a loyalty program. Customer can scan the QR code on the terminal, go to a registration page, join the program. And the other slightly more sophisticated ways we support customer interactions and engagement is through shopper recognition, recognizing people by virtue of their payment card. Now, the way this works is at some point, you instruct Adyen to store a customer's payment details in combination with a reference, maybe a loyalty ID, a customer reference, an email address. And from that moment on, whenever we see the payment card during a transaction, we return to you all the customer information that you provided in the first place. And you can then use that to connect different transactions that the customers made, even if they use different payment cards. You can use it, for example, to remember that somebody has a preference for email receipts and remember their email address. It's one of my frustrations that every time I have to spell my email address. Well, with this, you can only have to do it once, and then you can make it really easy for customers when they return. It's also a great way of facilitating a loyalty program. Because if you think about it, if you're a member of a loyalty program and you go shopping, you're basically asked to identify yourself twice. You're asked for a loyalty card or a QR code or an email address. And then when you pay, it's the second time you identify yourselves. Well, that's not necessary. That payment can also be the identification for the loyalty program. Like, for example, Dunkin' Donuts is doing in the Netherlands. They have a loyalty program that sits in an app on people's phone. And in that app, people can see how many points they have, and what they can do with the program. People can also store a payment card in the app, because then they can make pre-orders. So you can order your coffee, and then when you arrive in the Dunkin' Donuts, it's already there waiting for you. Now, normally when you don't want to pre-order and you just go in for your coffee or donut, the way you record your transaction for the loyalty program is by opening the app, firing up the QR code, scanning the QR code. That is your loyalty card. But Dunkin' knows that actually that's quite a big hassle for just buying a cup of coffee. So here's what we're enabling. When customers use the actual payment card on the terminal, so the card that was tokenized in the app, stored in the app, when they use the actual card and tap the terminal, we see the card, we recognize it, we send a message to Dunkin's loyalty company with all the transaction details. They record the transaction for loyalty, and they send a notification to the customer saying, congratulations, you've got another 15 loyalty points. So what we've done is we've just turned the payment card into a loyalty card. Now, if you combine those things, if you combine what you can do with terminals with the ability to recognize customers based upon their payment cards, you can create these kind of flows where a returning shopper is just welcomed back. Welcome back. Would you like your e-receipt to be sent to the same address? Or would you like to sign up for our loyalty program? Maybe you ask them for their mobile phone number and then send them a registration link. And the next time they come, they're recognized as a returning shopper. On some of our bigger multimedia terminals, you can also get the customers to fill in an email address. And what we want to achieve is this virtuous circle where a customer comes into a store and presents their card. We then check if there's any shopper details available. And if they are, we send it back to the point of sale. And if details are available, the shopper is welcomed back. And maybe a loyalty balance is shown. They get the opportunity to go again for an e-receipt. Something may happen, maybe even the price of the transaction is adjusted because of a special offer. And the payment is finished. If a customer comes in and there's no payment details registered yet, then it's an opportunity to get customers to provide those details. Provide an email address, for example, which can be either in the terminal or on the cash register. And then good practice dictates that you ask the customer for consent. Would you like us to remember you for next time? We store the card details and the payment is finalized. In doing so, you create this virtuous circle where either customers are recognized and welcomed back, or they are identified, and then next time they come, they're welcomed back. And gradually you turn your anonymous shoppers into known customers. That was what I wanted to share. Thank you very much. If you have any questions, then now is a good time. Thank you.